Welcome to the Audi Garage. In this week's episode, we're starting off with a B5 S4, and who knows what else is going to come. So to start off, last night actually, kind of had an impromptu B5 S4 engine pull due to some really bad work by the shop that installed these stage 3 turbos. So the issue is that on these RS6 turbos, there isn't an O-ring on the inlets like a standard KO4 style, but the shop that installed them with these SRM inlet pipes, but decided to not cut the ends off and use a coupler. So basically there's a huge intake leak. Obviously it's under vacuum, so it's not the end of the world, but the problem is, especially on the other side, it actually bulged out the inlet, so there was a huge amount of unmetered air probably coming in, and it's impossible to do a boost leak test from the Y pipe like is most common on these cars without that being sealed. So this has basically turned into a very quick engine pull to fix that issue, as well as rebuilding the spider hose and maybe fixing up a few other things we find. We'll double check the timing to make sure that isn't messed up and go from there. So here's an update on the engine. All the charge piping bolted up, replaced a bunch of T-bolt clamps, used some stock intercoolers to mock it up. Have the proper coupler now on the inlet. So I cut down these SRM inlets and then got rid of the small brackets and such. Normally I would have a lot more time to work on a motor like this and everything would be clean and done 100% nice instead of just slapped together, but time is of the essence on this one. One thing that I was checking and I found now after checking the wastegate cracking pressures, initially this arm was hitting on the compressor cover right there and right there, so it wasn't fully opening or closing because it would get stuck for a moment and then close. So I was instructed that on these turbos, you sometimes just have to bend the bracket out. They come made to fit a B5 S4, so I'm not sure why you'd have to do that after you purchase them. But I also checked if the actuators matched on each side, and they don't. One cracks at 9, one cracks at 6. So that has to be adjusted. I'm not sure if they came like that or if it was came out of adjustment after the short time these had been installed. But now I'm taking some heat wrap, wrapping the inlets after they've been pressure checked now. And then this will be pretty much ready to drop in. I guess the only thing I have left is the spider hose kit on the top and obviously adjusting the wastegates. So fast forward to the next day, the engine's in. I finished wrapping both inlets with the heat wrap. I adjusted the wastegates to make sure that they opened close to full. I had to adjust them at 6 psi cracking pressure. If I adjusted them up to 9, which is what most people prefer, the gates were only opening 5 millimeters. I also left the spider hose fixed to a later date. Those hoses are currently in pretty good condition, and we probably could use a catch can on this instead. That would be more helpful. One other big issue we did find on the driver's side, I think, wastegate, can't remember, one of the wastegates, is it was actually binding up on the housing. The actual flapper disc, when it would come down and close, it would catch at the top edge here and stay partially open. So our fix for that was to tack weld the gate in the closed position, as in when the actuator is holding the gate closed and flat. I tack welded the small nub to the disc itself, so now it's completely fixed. When it opens, it stays in a firm position, and when it closes, it doesn't bind up. So that should be a fix, at least for the time being. If I didn't mention already, the gates were set to crack at about 6 psi, and they fully open at around 10. So So just an update, hopefully you guys can hear me in the car. Just delivering the black S4 to its owner. Got everything buttoned up fairly well. The tune needs to be adjusted because it was compensating for the leaks, but everything seems to be good. It's pulling more vacuum now at idle, and we'll see what happens at upper boost, especially with those wastegates being adjusted. But yeah, so not only the reason we're dropping this car off is because it's on the way to pick up another car. So this is going to be a part out car. It's a stage 3 Tiptronic S4 B5. KO4, so that's a suspension, a little bit of engine bay goodies. So it'll be parted out. So check out the Facebook page and Instagram and such, and I'll show you, I'll have pictures and you guys can message me if you're interested in any of the parts. Obviously, I'll do a good thorough checking of the condition of everything before it's sent out. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. Well, I'm going to close out last week's video. There was a big break in there. We did our road trip. We went about 5,000 kilometers of driving out towards the East Coast. It was a great time. Car handled fine. The only problem was halfway through the trip back home, our rear wheel bearings just started howling. So they lasted all the way to home. When we got here, I fixed them. It was no big deal. One exciting thing that did happen on the way home, though, is I was able to stop at the dyno and see the black car that I was working on just before our trip get put on the roller. So I'm going to insert some of that footage here. So it made 407 wheel horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. The tune was still being worked on, so of course, as everyone likes to say, there's still got a little bit left in it. But actually this week it's going on the rollers again after being adjusted some. So we'll see what it puts out. I may or may not be going to that day. We'll see how my schedule is. So we might have clips of that, or at least I'll have some results that I'll talk about. So like I said, that's it for this week's video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you guys soon.